Sometimes dead is better. Here are 19 reasons to watch the original Pet Sematary. Hi everyone, I'm Dave Musson, at Dave Musson on Instagram, and this is the place where I talk to you about all things Stephen King. And this year, my main focus, my main beam I'm following is the adaptations, the movies, all of those kind of visual translations of Stephen King's work. And in this video, we're looking at 1989's Pet Sematary, our final adaptation of the 1980s. Now, we'll get onto those reasons in a little bit, but first, a brief round of plugging for you. Now, I will keep this brief because everything you need to know is in the description, so if you're interested enough, do go and have a look. But basically, you can sign up to my newsletter, and if you do, you'll get a nice email from me every week. You'll get a short story from me every week. You'll get an indie horror author recommended by me every week just for you. And as a thank you for signing up, you get a collection of some of my work as an ebook for free. Links in the description. If you like indie horror author recommendations, then check out the Constant Writers podcast, because that's where I have conversations with a bunch of them and we geek out about Stephen King. And of course, you can pick up the Ultimate Stephen King quiz book, which I published in 2022. It's available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. It's a really good book, and look at that cover art by Loudmouth Threads. Worth it just for that, I reckon. Okay, so as you know, this time out we're doing 1989's Pet Sematary.
Yeah, that's a good story. A good walk. I'll take you up there sometime. Tell you the story too.
The Mary Lambert-directed movie based on the 1983 novel of the same name. If you want to check out my 19 reasons to read Pet Sematary, then the link is right up there. You can go and check that one out. Now, in terms of spoilers and stuff, there will be some spoilery reasons in this list, but I will cluster them towards the end and I will give you a spoiler warning before they come. So if you need to bail because you maybe haven't seen this yet, then you can bail safely and avoid any spoilers. At the time of recording, this one appears to be streaming on Paramount Plus here in the UK and on AMC Plus in the US, but it is also available to buy and rent in a bunch of places, including right here on YouTube. Okay, I think that's all the admin done. Here are 19 reasons to watch Pet Sematary. Okay, headline reason for you to kick this off. This is an incredibly rich adaptation of a quite terrifying novel, and it delivers on the main setting. Not the main setting as in the top setting, I mean the location Maine. Everything about this movie screams Maine, and everything about it is done brilliantly. The cast, the script, the location, the scares, all wonderful, even if they have dated ever so slightly. This one does a brilliant job of capturing that kitchen sink drama with the truly horrific horror in one fell swoop, and the result is fucking iconic. So I'm going to give another reason, shout out to the location. Maine is very important to this movie. Stephen King stipulated that it had to be shot in Maine, and he wanted locals to get jobs as extras and all of that kind of stuff. And as anyone who's watched the film will be able to tell you, the result is absolutely spectacular. But if you want more about the background of this and the importance of Maine, then do check out the documentary about the making of this film that is called Unearthed and Untold: The Path to Pet Sematary. It's really good. So there is a world where this film doesn't exist. Towards the end of the 1980s, studio execs, for all that they know, decided that the public was getting sick of Stephen King adaptations. Then there was a Screenwriters Guild strike in 1988, and they were scrabbling around for what to get moving and get in theatres. The script for this one was already done, so they greenlit it. And, well, it happened. There we go. So the rights for this initially sold to George A. Romero in 1984, but as I've already mentioned, it was Mary Lambert directing it by the time we got it out. Now, this was her second feature film, and she kind of made a name for herself doing a lot of music videos, particularly Madonna music videos. And for me, she does a terrific job of this movie. You only need to watch it to see that. And first female director of a Stephen King adaptation, no less. Not that it should be a big point that it's a first woman, but this is the world we live in. Whatever, she does amazingly. So King was on set a lot during the filming of this because it was basically shot in his back garden. And we get another King cameo. Yep, that is King as the priest.
Now, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you.
So let's talk cast and start with Dale Midkiff as Lewis Creed, the perfectly cast, super hot everyman who just wants to do what is right by his family. Now apparently Bruce Campbell of Evil Dead fame, he was also in the running for this role, which I can see working, but I also think Dale Midkiff actually absolutely knocks it out of the park. Also, as I mentioned, Midkiff, he's hot, too hot in fact. They had to reshoot the dream sequence scene because originally he wasn't wearing enough clothes and it was setting too many hearts aflutter, so they reshot it with him having slightly more material covering that delicious body of his. So two more standouts in the cast for me. First, of course, Miko Hughes, the 2-year-old who plays Gage and is amazing and terrifying.
Uh-oh.
And second, of course, we've got to mention Fred Gwynne, as Judd Crandall.
I live just across the road.
For me, he steals the entire film. That weathered face, that main accent, that kind heart, and those dark fucking secrets that he just willingly unleashes on everybody. Brilliant. Actually, one more on cast. The character of Zelda is deeply unnerving, due in no small part thanks to a wonderful performance and lots of prosthetics from Andrew Hubersteck. Pure fucking nightmare fuel. Should probably talk music, specifically the Ramones. Not only do we get them singing their song Pet Sematary over the closing credits, which they wrote specifically for this movie, but we also hear the track Sheena is a Punk Rocker in one of the trucks that is driving by the house. And it was kind of a match made in heaven. Mary Lambert knew the Ramones. Stephen King sees them as basically his favourite band. So, hey ho, let's go. That's a Ramones reference, by the way. So fun fact for you, this is the first time that King had a go at writing a screenplay based on one of his own novels. His previous screenplays had either been adaptations of short stories or original stories. Lastly, before spoilers, the cat. Now, there are a grand total of 9 cats used to play Church in this film, and each cat had a specific role. One to be nice, one to be a dickhead, one to jump, one to snarl, all of that kind of stuff. I mean, talk about fucking prima donnas. You wouldn't get that with a dog, I'm just saying. They'd just do it all. But yeah, I guess the cats in this are pretty good. Okay, so we're about to head into reasons that talk about differences from the book. I pick out some of my favourite scenes and lines, stuff that potentially spoils a first-time experience. So consider this your spoiler alert. If you want to bail here, please do and come back soon. Otherwise, stick around because I've got a few more reasons for you to watch Pet Sematary. Okay, so let's get on to thinking about how this compares to the book. Considering King wrote the screenplay, it's pretty close. There's one big thing from the book that is missing from the film, apart from the super hot bathtub handjob scene. I'm talking about the Wendigo, and the crew did try and make the Wendigo happen, but it just didn't click. So the ending of this movie is also worth a mention because the studio actually made them reshoot it to make it more gruesome. Originally it was a bit more ambiguous from what we get on screen. We see Rachel return, Lewis is playing solitaire, and then we're done. We never really know what happens. But, well, as you know from watching the movie, the version we get is a lot more brutal. We see a lot more of Rachel, it's a lot more gruesome, and judging by the scream we get right at the very, very end, a lot more murdery. Okay, so can we talk about like how fucking good that demonic Gage is? Played by a 2-year-old, remember? I mean, that scalpel scene. Let's talk about favourite scenes, and it's really difficult for me to pick just one because there's so many good ones here. I mean, Gage getting hit by the truck, fucking heartbreaking and just all kinds of amazing and emotional. And that final shot that I already mentioned is the perfect stinger as well. But for me, actually, it's a really tiny detail that got under my skin in the book that they captured brilliantly on screen. And it's during Gage's funeral where they're having the fight, the coffin knocks off its little plinth, and the coffin opens just enough for you to see Gage's little hand in his little suit. That image on page made me put the book down and just stare into space for a few minutes. And it really worked on screen. It's not the most iconic, and it probably isn't your favourite scene, but it's just one that completely worked for me. And yeah, I'm actually thinking about it a lot now, and it's pretty harrowing. So I'm going to move on. As for my favourite line, I'll just hand over to Judd.
Well, sometimes that is better.
So there's not loads of Easter eggs or connections here, particularly when you take away King's involvement and his little cameo and the main stuff, and also the fact that Mary Lambert would go on to direct Pet Sematary 2 a few years later. But there are a couple of fun ones for you. So at the start, where we're getting voiceovers of children reading epitaphs about pets, one of those voices is Jonathan Brandis, who would very shortly after this appear in the 1990 It miniseries as Bill Denborough. And for those who are really eagle-eyed at the start, you may notice when Victor Pascoe gets taken to hospital, there is a poster on the wall about rabies. And we all know which King character had rabies, don't we? So lastly, there's no doubt that this film has become a cult classic among King fans, but I think it's criminally underrated. I'm going to pose it out there to you that if I say Stephen King movies, you probably automatically will go to Shawshank, Green Mile, The Shining, those ones. And I totally get that. But how often do you think of The Creeds? How often do you think of Pet Sematary? You know, this is a movie that for me gets better and better and better each time I rewatch it. And I just struggle to find flaws with it. The script is really tight. The nightmarish feel is just deeply unsettling. The scares are wonderful and have survived the fact that they were made in the 80s. They're still effective now. The cast, the crew, the performances, the location, it's all spot on. So yeah, I think this movie deserves shouting about even more. Even if you see it as a cult classic, go and rewatch it. Go and tell somebody else about it, because it's fucking wonderful.
Lewis, you all right?
Yeah. I guess I just lost my happy thoughts there for a second.
So there we go, my 19 reasons to watch Pet Sematary. Let me know what you think of this one in the comments. Let me know your favourite scene, your favourite line, your favourite scare, all of that kind of stuff. It's a pretty good film, this, isn't it? Yeah, it really is. Before I wrap up, a few things to tell you about. You can come and find me on Instagram, I'm at Dave Musson. You can find me on Letterboxd as well. Totally forgot to mention that in the intro, so all of you bailed for the spoiler alert. You won't be watching this anyway. Whatever, come and find me on Letterboxd. I'll follow you back. It'd be good to swap movie reviews. You can also pick up my quiz book. You can also sign up to my newsletter. You can also get the Constant Writers podcast. You know the deal by now. You've stuck around this long. Check everything out in the description. Support me in whatever way you can if you feel like it. And yeah, I've run out of steam now. Shall we wrap this up? Yeah, we are now done with the 1980s. We're also done with the 70s. We were done with the 70s a long time ago. Basically, it's a good point for me to do a ranking, and I need a bit of time to prepare for 1990s movies and adaptations because there's a lot to get through. So, next time out, we're going to do a ranking of movies. Join me for that. You love rankings, right? Cool, I'm rambling. Bye.